Driver X.
And I'm Tim.
And today we are in the iconic Portsmouth, New Hampshire to meet up with our good friend Tom Shaw.
We're gonna grab some coffee, maybe thaw her out a little bit, and head across town to the new garage in Portsmouth.
Which I'm so excited about. I've been waiting for this day, and it's finally here. We are New England Auto Films.
And welcome to the channel.
I was born 1987 in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. From a young age, I loved tearing stuff apart. My mother had an old sewing machine that didn't work, and for lack of a better term, she fed it to the wolves by giving it to me, knowing that it was never going to work again. But it was a good opportunity to tear it apart and see what made it tick. And I did. And I did that with a lot of things. That was a majority in my childhood, was breaking and taking stuff apart. Ask my toy box. We didn't grow up poor, but we didn't have a lot of money. My father was a lobsterman, and my mother babysat me and my younger cousins. So the paychecks would be mild to wild, depending on what Dad caught. My mother was very good at budgeting and squeezing a penny and making a quarter. Like I said, I didn't live poor, but we didn't have a lot of lavish extra things. Just because I wanted something didn't usually mean that I got it. I'd get a lot of compromise things, which I believe is part of what made me who I am today. Yeah, I wanted a $600 BMX bike, I remember. It was beautiful. GT Pro Performer. It was such a beautiful bike, but it was something that was never going to be in my wheelhouse at the time to afford, knowing that my parents wouldn't spend $600 on a bicycle. So I did the best thing I could. At that point in my life, Dad worked at Wentworth Scrap Metal, so I was allowed to go around the metal pile and pick up whatever I wanted. I'd take 3 bikes, make them into one. I'd say, this gear is too big or too small, I'd swap it out with another one. This wheel is bent, take this one off, whatever. And that's kind of how I evolved into building whatever I could with whatever I got. Fast forward to my first truck. It was a 93 Silverado. It had a V6, manual transmission, 8-foot bed. I found it up the road from my house for sale for $800. Took out a personal loan. Bought it. Not soon after I bought it, put on a straight pipe aftermarket air cleaner, a little blue wire loom under the hood. Started the can't leave my stuff alone starter pack. I had that for a while, broke that. I got another truck. I got a 1988 Dodge Dakota, and then I found a small block V8 with a carburetor. Me and my buddy put that in after I established a motor and transmission for something that I could take in and out. Oh boy, the sky's the limit now. I had another Silverado, and at that time I saw a YouTube video of a guy with a red truck. Looked pretty much just like mine, but his was turboed. He had it at the track doing the burnout. You just hear the blow-off valve. And I said, oh man, I gotta get me one of them. So I started looking into how much effort it was gonna take and what I was gonna have to do and what are all these pieces. I knew what an intercooler was, but at the time I said, I have no idea what a wastegate is. So I looked up what that is. And then everybody knows the blow-off valve makes the noise, all the other pieces that go along with it. And kind of did a rough draft, if you will, on that truck. It was the stock motor, stock internals, stock injectors. I put it into limp mode a bunch of times. I'd have to pull over the side of the road, shut the truck off, start it back up. And yeah, I ran with that one for a while. That one was cool because the truck wasn't anything special looking, but when people would hear it coming around the corner and then hear, they're like, what was that? So that I got a kick out of that. And then I found a lime green Silverado. This one was a single cab short bed, which is one of the most desirable and my personal favorite. I put a 14-bolt full floating rear end in that, brought it to the dyno, got 500 horsepower out of it, or just shy. So I was excited about that. I got it to the track one time. My first pass was one of my fastest passes. I did 13.064 at 109, which was fairly impressive for my first pass. Just to be in the 100-mile-an-hour club was, if it still existed, was pretty cool to me. And brought it home. It was either the next week or the week after that. Went back to the track. Some special event was happening. Either way, we weren't allowed in. So I made the trip somewhat for nothing. And of course, being all excited to race, I had all the blood, pumping and everything. And coming back, one of my buddies has this big diesel truck, and we're just doing flybys in 101 past each other, just kind of messing around, nothing crazy. And we get out to where the road hits Route 1. And he's rolling coal, just a bunch of black smoke. Ooh, I'm a diesel. I had to outstage him in my head, so I nail it coming out of a corner, which is not a good idea. And I started fishtailing a lot more than I ever anticipated. This way, that way, this way, that way. Finally, it started spinning out of control. And with my buddy in the passenger seat, I put it into the woods. Luckily, not hurting either one of us, but destroying the truck.
You think with a car that quick you could show up on time?
After establishing that I was okay, that my friend was okay, we got out, and every panel on that truck was just destroyed. Brought it back to the shop, put it on the lift, found the frame was tweaked, and I knew right then and there this thing is destroyed. But all the go fast parts were still intact. The motor was unharmed, the transmission was unharmed. So I said, alright, what am I going to throw this in now?
Things happen.
And after thinking about every vehicle on the planet, I came down to a BMW E36. It's a solid car, but it's a light car. And CX Racing made motor mount kits for him. That was the only thing I had going for me with that. I found an E36 in Tingsboro, Massachusetts. Went down, grabbed that, brought it back up just to tear the motor and transmission right out of that. Don't worry about that. This is the exhaust pipe. Within 2 weeks, I had the engine and transmission out. Put the new motor and transmission in. The guys at work would help me roll it in every night. I'd work on it till 12 o'clock at night. Go home, shower, go to bed, wake up, push it out, rinse and repeat. It took 6 months of nights like those to get that moving under its own power. And on my birthday, which is ironically enough today, I was able to drive it for the first time as the BMW E36 with a 6-liter Chevy motor. I remember driving it that morning. I had to work that day. I remember getting in the morning, driving it just down the road to the gas station. I didn't want to go too far in case I forgot something. I remember getting gas, driving around the gas pump. There was a guy in a big Chevy truck. And I remember getting a smile across his face and a big thumbs up. I knew from there, I was like, yes, I'm going to be locally famous for this car.
thank you for coming, dude.
What's going on, guys?
How's it going, Tom?
Welcome to New England Auto Films. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Happy to be here.
Nice.
We've seen this car over the past couple years at Seacoast Cars and Coffee. Always a fan favorite there. We're looking forward to hearing your story and getting the background of the build. Why don't you take us for a tour of the vehicle?
Sure. It's a 1994 BMW 325i. It originally came with a 2.5 liter inline motor and not a huge turbo sticking out of it.
Wait, Tom. So you're telling me that this didn't come stock on the BMW that year?
You guys want me to pop the hood?
Please, man. We've been dying to check this out.
All right. Just about everything you see under the engine bay came from that green truck I was telling you about earlier.
How'd you get all the fit in here, man?
Very carefully.
My God. Is this a nitrous system or?
No, that is the water methanol kit. That shoots water and methanol directly into the intake and into the engine to help keep it cool, to help from detonation happening, and keeps the intake air temperatures down.
So what are you doing for a transmission in this?
The transmission in this is a 4L80E. It's a Chevy transmission that would have came in any larger trucks.
Yeah. Like your 2500s, the box fan.
You got it. I wanted something that was strong enough in stock form that I could go to a junkyard, find another one, replace it if need be, but probably never have to do so.
Right.
It's a good transmission. It's a heavy transmission, but it's something I was willing to add a couple of extra pounds on if I didn't have to worry about being on the side of the road all the time.
Makes sense, man.
Perfect. Since you daily this thing, that's important to you, right?
Yes, definitely.
Next thing I think we should address is like how you get all this power to the ground. Obviously, you're making a ton of it, so how do you translate that to the pavement?
Well, I had to put it in a posi unit, and I switched it to a 488. The stock rear end in it was an open differential, and it didn't get any traction. For the longest time, everybody always asked me, how do you get all that power and then you haven't blown up the rear end yet? Well, that's because I haven't had any power to go to it. When I went to the track, a bunch of times, I'd do a burnout, get this tire nice and warmed up and sticky, and then pull up to the line, and then I'd go, and then this tire would just start spinning all the way down the wall. So I decided I gotta get something, because it doesn't matter how much horsepower you have. If you can't get it to the ground, you don't got it. So that was a test.
I think it's a good time to start working our way to the back of the car and take a tour of the rest of it.
Sounds good.
Whoa. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Tom, you've clearly outdone yourself here. This must have taken a while to build.
Oh yeah.
Look at that fuel pump. Unbelievable. So tell us about it. What is it?
It's got an Aeromotive A1000 fuel pump. Everything about the fuel system is Aeromotive except for the eBay fuel cell. Because you know I love eBay parts. Just like the sticker says up front, it's got a stealth pump inside of the tank that pumps fuel to the surge tank. And the surge tank pumps fuel to the A1000. That way, when I take corners, if the fuel level is low in the tank, it sloshes this way away from this pump, the car doesn't bog down and suffer because of it. So no matter what I'm doing, it constantly has a good flow of fuel, and I don't have to worry about it.
Really love the way everything looks in here. It almost looks like it belongs this way.
This is how they actually came factory. BMWs.
Yeah, anything but. I don't think there's a bolt on this car that I haven't touched or replaced.
So is this where you put the fuel now?
Yep, this is where I pop the trunk when I get to the gas station. Everybody gives me funny looks. Put the fuel in there. That's why I riveted the fuel door shut with a piece of Lexan.
Is the batteries shut off here?
That is the
track.
That is the battery shut off. The track required me to have that when batteries are relocated into the trunk, or even they're in stock form when you do as much as I've done up front. They require it so that in case of an emergency, anything happens on the track, they just come up. Done. It is completely dead right now. So that was the reason I put that there. The oil filter right there is for the transmission cooler that pumps it through, gets all the metal, keeps all the metal out of the transmission. At least that's the idea. The water meth kit is over here. It consists of a little washer tank and a pump. And rear suspension that you see is from a 240 SX, and one of my buddies had lying around. So I mocked it up and made it work.
It looks amazing. Not a lot of room for groceries, though, I noticed.
No, she's not a real good grocery getter. Everything spills.
Awesome. You did such a great job with this, man. Anything else you want to show us?
Yeah, let's take a look into the cockpit and show you the gauges and stuff.
Love it.
All right.
It's like NASCAR in here.
Yeah, a little bit. All the gauges, except for the AEM gauge, all autometer. Everything, I love autometer gauges so much that that's all I wanted to incorporate.
Unbelievable.
This is sheet metal dash. The actual dash itself was made out of a sign that used to be at a bicycle shop.
No kidding.
Just I used the press brake and made it. It's thin aluminum, so it's lightweight. Got the water meth controller, water temp, trans temp, boost, oil pressure, wideband, fuel, RPM, and speedometer. Shift light right here. Ratchet shifter. This is for my tuning software.
Excellent.
And every race car needs a JBL.
I couldn't agree more.
Because I was silly enough to yard everything out of this car that didn't need to be there for a race, including a stereo.
I feel like the only thing about the inside of this car that's original is the fact that it actually has a BMW emblem on steering wheel, but nothing else.
Even that is another eBay part, believe it or not.
Knowing you, I do believe it.
The pedals are original. This cup holder and the visors. I think that is literally the only original anything in here.
Tom, do these windows still go up and down automatically?
You know it.
What do you know? And what have you done with the door panels here?
The door panels are made out of thin plastic, and I upholstered over top of them. Again, it's another thing that I wanted to gut everything in the car, but I didn't want a bunch of sharp edges and make it look like crap. So I did that. They're lightweight, they keep me out of trouble, and they work.
Love these door pulls. You see these in like high-end exotics. You don't typically see them in LS swap.
I got the idea from Porsche. It was I forgot which model it was, but they had those, and I'm like, oh, well, if he can do it, so can I.
What an elegant solution.
Yeah.
Love it.
It works. It's simple. And that's it for the cockpit, I guess.
All right, Tom, so the big question on everybody's mind is what does this actually make for power to the wheels?
This puts 500 horsepower down to the wheels.
And you had that checked over at...
Performance dyno unloaded.
Excellent. Now, what kind of numbers do you put down at the track? I mean, 60 foot, what's your 8th mile?
I can't remember my 8th mile off the top of my head. The last time I had this, my 60 foot was like 2. So that's one of the things with the rear suspension that I'm really hoping to focus in on. Because the first half of the track is where you win races. She's got a mean top end, and being a turbo car they usually do. The back half of the track looks beautiful, but if I don't get out of the hole better, I'm not going to climb the list. So that's one of the things I'm working on. Hopefully that new rear end will do me some justice.
Absolutely. Now, how about your speed? What are you getting for a trap speed as you get to the end?
113 was the last one. Which is not too bad. Not too bad.
Now, I'm not a track guy, so what do you get for gas mileage when you're taking this around town?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I've never figured this out because I don't want to know.
Fair enough.
It's not awful if I drive nice, but I mean, if you put your foot into it, it probably gets like 8 miles to the gallon. Probably worse. That's
But
why
you put a lot of modern V8s.
That's why I just don't look. When the gas gauge says, hey, time to fill up, okay, it's time to fill up.
And then with the added weight in the front end, does it drive any differently than it did when it was?
Funny enough, out of everything that you see here, even with that transmission, I ended up gaining about 200 pounds from the stock motor. The stock motor and transmissions of these things are, in my opinion, a boat anchor. They're heavy. So by swapping everything out, the front suspension is stock. I haven't done anything. So as you can see, it doesn't sit crazy or anything. It did well. She's a stiff ride. I mean, she's a race car after all. So going to potholes and stuff like that, frost heaves suck. But it's New England. We're used to it. We do what we can. I don't try to drive her in the snow so much. She's too much fun. She'll get me in trouble. But nice days. I can't wait to drive.
So wheels and tires up front, pretty much stock size.
Yep, those are stock Beamer Steelies right now.
What do you get out back?
Out back, I got Bassett rims. They're just some race rims. They're steel. They're light. I'm still trying to figure out what wheel size, what dimensions, and everything. I don't want to get really expensive wheels that I have to return or try to pawn off on eBay. So I just got cheap ones for now, just to see if I like the size and the offset and the backspace and all that, and then we'll go from there. Cheap.
Now, other than the stiff suspension, as you would notice, the fuel economy changed. Have there been any other big changes in the way the car behaves or maneuvers?
Not really. I mean, one of the things that does suck is where it's a gutted car. I knew not having a carpet between me and the outside, the road noise and stuff was going to be worse. I was like, I could get over that, no problem. What I didn't account for is that in the middle of July, when it's scalding hot,
Ooh, I know where this is going.
and the exhaust, the transmission, the engine, all the airflow that goes underneath the car, she's a hot ride in the middle of the summer. Literally.
Well, we've been here all day at the Boundary Garage in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I know you can't see how cold it was here today, but it was quite chilly, so we appreciate you toughing it out, Tom. I know it hasn't been the best conditions, but we got the job done, and I think this car will get the job done at the track in a couple months.
I certainly hope so.
And I certainly can't wait to see it. We just want to let you know how much we appreciate you coming out. We are New England Auto Films, and we really look forward to capturing these stories and, giving the viewers an opportunity to understand how much goes into here behind the scenes.
Remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, because we can't do this.